हेलो फ्रेंड्स, मेरा नाम है आनंद और आज हम स्टार्ट करने वाले हैं आईसीएसई क्लास 10 हिस्ट्री चैप्टर 1, चैप्टर 2 एंड चैप्टर 3 ऑल टुगेदर। हम आईसीएसई क्लास 10 हिस्ट्री का चैप्टर 1, चैप्टर 2 और चैप्टर 3 एक साथ स्टार्ट करने वाले हैं। चैप्टर 1, द फर्स्ट वॉर ऑफ इंडियन इंडिपेंडेंस 1857। We will discuss causes of the revolt, political causes. Starting with political causes, the British followed a policy of annexing, means taking over, Indian states using laws like the doctrine of lapse. In this, Rani Lakshmibai's kingdom of Jhansi was taken. Indian kings and queens, they lost their power, causing anger in them. Economic causes. Heavy taxes on peasants made them poor. Indian industries like handicraft industry, textile industry were destroyed. British goods replaced Indian goods. Social and religious causes. British looked down on Indian culture and religion. Laws were made to reform India society, like banning child marriage made people suspicious. There was Christian missionaries trying to convert Indians to Christianity. Military causes. Indian soldiers, also called sepoys, were treated badly. They were paid less and were not promoted to higher posts. Soldiers showed disrespect to Indian soldiers, religions and customs. Immediate cause of the revolt. Introduction of the new Enfield rifle. The greased cartridges were greased with cow and pig fat. Hindus considered cow fat impure, Muslims considered pig fat unclean. Soldiers refused to use it and hence they were punished. Cause of revolt. The revolt first began at Meerut. The date is important. May 10, 1857, and then spread to Delhi, Kanpur, Lucknow, Jhansi. Bahadur Shah Zafar was declared the symbolic leader. Symbolic means leader only in the name. Later he was deposed to Burma. Leaders like Rani Lakshmibai, Tatya Tope, Nana Sahib, Begum Hazrat Mahal. Brutal battles were fought, but the British captured back all cities. Causes of failure. There was no proper planning or unity among the leaders. Some rulers supported the British. No modern weapons. British had better weapons, better arms and transport systems. Revolt was not carried out all over India. It was mainly restricted to North and Central India. Effects of the revolt. The British Crown took direct control over India using the Government of India Act 1858. East India Company was abolished after the Crown took over. Queen Victoria became the new crown and the company's rule was abolished. Queen promised not to interfere with religion and customs. Indian army was reorganized. First time Indians united against British rule and there was start of nationalism. What was the immediate cause of revolt? The introduction of the Enfield rifle with cartridges greased in cow and pig fat hurt the religious sentiments. When the sepoys refused to use them, they were punished, causing the revolt. Three leaders of the revolt: Rani Lakshmibai, Tatya Tope, Nana Sahib. Two political causes: doctrine of lapse, annexation of Indian kingdoms like Jhansi and Awadh. Failure of revolt. Failure was mainly due to lack of unity among the people, poor leadership. It was spread to limited only in the north and central India, but British had better weapons and arms. Nationalism. Nationalism is a feeling of love and unity for your country. People began to feel proud of being Indians, wanted to fight British rule. Factors leading to growth of nationalism. British exploited Indians and took away all the valuable wealth. Unfair treatment was shown, created unity among the Indians and anger among Indians. Western education, the spread of English education, they taught ideas like liberty, equality and justice. Indians learned about democracy and freedom movements. Role of press. Indian newspapers like Kesari, Amrit Bazar Patrika was spread. People got to know what happening in other parts of India. Socio-religious reform movement. Leaders like Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Vivek Ananda encouraged Indians to take pride in their culture. Fought against social evils and united the people. Transport and communication, railways, telegraph, post link Indians across regions, help them share ideas and feelings. Economic exploitation, high taxes were imposed on farmers. There was rampant poverty, destruction of cotton textile industries, handicraft industries, causing anger among the Indians. British economic struggles united the people of India against the Britishers. What is nationalism? Nationalism is the feeling of unity and love for one's nation. People work together to achieve freedom and progress. How did Western education help in growth of nationalism? Western education taught Indians about democracy, liberty and justice, which made them aware of their rights. Two newspapers helped in the growth of nationalism, Kesari and Amrita Bazar Patrika. Role of reformers like Raja Ram Mohan Roy. He fought against social evils, promoted pride in Indian culture, helping to unite people. Indian National Movement. Formation of the Indian National Movement, Indian National Congress. It was formed in 1885 by A.O. Hume, a retired British officer. First session was held in Bombay, and the president of the first session of Congress was W.C. Bonerjee. The aim was to create unity among all Indians and present their demands peacefully to the British. The early phase, the early nationalists, also called the moderates, 1885 to 1905. The early nationalist leaders were Dadabhai Naoroji, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, Surendranath Banerjee. They believed in very peaceful methods. They believed in petitions, making speeches, polite speeches, and writing in the press. They demanded jobs for their Indians. The early nationalists demanded jobs for the Indians, reduction of taxes, and also freedom of speech. Assertive nationalist 1905 to 1916. Leaders like Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Bipin Chandrapal, Lala Lajpat Rai, they are called assertive leaders, also called later nationalists or extremists. They believed British would not give anything. They have to force the Britishers for independence. Slogan given by Tilak was Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it. Methods adopted was boycott of use of British goods and mass protests across country. Partition of Bengal took place in 1905. It was started by Lord Curzon. Claimed for administrative purposes, but real reason divide the Hindus and Muslims. People protested through Swadeshi. Swadeshi means using only Indian goods, and boycott. Boycott means rejecting or refusing to use British goods. Surat split that took place in 1907. The Congress party split into two groups, the early nationalist and the later nationalist or moderates and the extremists. Moderates or the early nationalists believed in peaceful method of demanding independence. Assertive nationalists, they wanted aggressive or forceful method of demanding independence. This split in the Congress party happened at the Surat session of the Indian National Congress in the year 1907. Muslim League formation, that was in 1906. The Muslims felt left out in the Congress party. They were in minority. So they formed a separate Muslim League party to protect their rights. Who founded the Indian National Congress? When? It was founded in 1885 by A.O. Hume. The aims of the early nationalists was to unite Indians and request for the reformation from the British government in a peaceful manner. Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Bipin Chandrapal and Lala Lajpat Rai, Lal Bal Pal, they also known as the assertive or extremist nationalist. What was the Swadeshi and boycott movement? Swadeshi was using Indian goods. Boycott means refusing British goods, protesting against the British rule. Reason for partition. Officially, for administrative convenience, partition of Bengal was carried out, but the actual idea was to divide the Hindus and Muslims and weaken the national movement that was growing in the country. The revolt of 1857 was the major first attempt by the Indians to fight against the British rule. Though it failed in its ultimate of ending the British control, it was the beginning of a long struggle for Indian independence. Several causes led to this revolt, which was not limited to just one region or one section of society. The revolt began in the army, soon farmers, landlords, noblemen, and even people joined it. This war is often called the First War of Independence because that was for the first time that Indians from different parts of the country they came together united to fight for a common cause, free themselves from foreign rule. The main political causes of the revolt was British policy of annexation. Annexation means occupying the territory and adding it to one's territory. The British East India Company used different tricks to take control of Indian kingdoms. The doctrine of lapse that was introduced by Lord Dalhousie said that if an Indian ruler died without a son, his kingdom would be taken over by the British. So this was according to the policy of doctrine of lapse. Because of this policy, many princely states like the Satara, Nagpur, Jhansi were taken away or annexed. The annexation of Awadh also took place in 1856 on the false excuse of misgovernance, hurting the sentiments of the people deeply. The rulers lost their power and people lost their faith in the British justice. This created a strong sense of anger and a feeling of betrayal. Betrayal means somebody trying to cheat you. Okay, it created a sense of betrayal among Indian kings and queens. Economically, also, there was exploitation. The British had already damaged our cottage industries, cotton industries, textile industries, handicraft industries, and severely paralyzed our agriculture system. Indian craftsmen, workers had lost their jobs because British goods were imported in large quantities and cheaply sold in Indian markets, while Indian handmade products were taxed highly and discouraged from selling. Peasants suffered badly because of the high taxes imposed on them. Landowners lost their property, their land, their estates under unfair laws. The jamindars, talukdars, who were once powerful, were pushed into poverty. People became extremely poor. British officials lived in luxury. This unfair treatment made Indians feel British were here only to loot them and to exploit their country. Socially and religiously, also, many Indians believed that the British were trying to destroy their customs and religion. Christian missionaries, supported by the British government, tried to convert all Indians to Christianity. There were laws that were passed to interfere with Indian social system, social practices like allowing widows to remarry or banning practices like sati system. Through these reforms, progressive many Indians saw them as an attack on their faith. The fear of losing their religion and culture united both Hindus and Muslims against the British rule. The condition of Indian soldiers or sepoys in the British army was major reason behind the revolt. They were treated with disrespect and they were paid very less than their British counterparts. They were not promoted easily and were sent to fight on foreign lands without considering their religious beliefs. The final spark or anger came when a new rifle called the Enfield rifle was introduced. The cartridge of this rifle had to be bitten before use and it was said to be greased with cow and pig fat. This hurt the religious feelings of both the Hindus and Muslims. When the sepoys refused to use the cartridge, they were punished severely. This immediate incident triggered or started the revolt at Meerut on 10th of May 1857, and from there it spread rapidly to other parts like Delhi, Kanpur, Lucknow and parts of north and central India. The revolt spread quickly, took the shape of full scale, means across the country uprising. Uprising means anger. At Delhi, the sepoys declared Bahadur Shah Jafar, the last Mughal emperor, as the leader of the revolt. In Kanpur, Nana Sahib led the forces, while Rani Lakshmibai Jhansi became a symbol of courage and resistance in central India. Tatya Tope and Begum Hazrat Mahal, prominent leaders, gave their strong resistance means preventing the British forces from occupying their region. The rebels fought bravely. The rebels means the fighters. They fought bravely and captured several towns and cities. However, there was lack of unity, lack of coordination, and they did not have any modern weapons. The British, with the help of loyal Indian rulers and superior military strength and also good quality weapons, latest weaponry, gradually regained control over many territories of India. The revolt failed due to many reasons. The rebels or the fighters, they did not have a common plan or national leadership. Many rulers like the Nizam of Hyderabad, Maharaja of Kashmir, rulers of Patiala, they favored or took side with the Britishers or supported the Britishers. The revolt was limited mainly to north and did not spread to the south. The rebels used old-fashioned weapons while the British had latest weapons, better arms and equipment. There was lack of communication between different group of fighters. The British crushed the revolt with great brutality. Though the revolt failed, the impact was very deep. The British government took direct control over India by passing the Government of India Act 1858, according to which the East India Company was abolished and the Princess Crown, okay, Crown Princess Victoria, Queen Victoria became the government. A new policy was adopted to respect Indian traditions and religions. The Indian army was reorganized to reduce the number of Indian soldiers and increase the number of Britishers. The policy of divide and rule was strengthened to prevent unity between the Hindus and Muslims. However, the revolt awakened Indians and planted the seeds of nationalism. It made people realize that they had to unite to fight for freedom. It was the first strong step towards India's independence. Growth of nationalism. The revolt of 57 may have failed, but it left behind a strong message of resistance and unity. In the years that followed, Indians started becoming aware of their rights and they began to love their country deeply. The growing love for country, along with the desire to work together for freedom, is known as nationalism. Nationalism did not grow overnight. It developed very slowly because several changes took place in Indian society due to the British rule. British rule itself became one of the major reasons behind growth of nationalism. People realized that British had come to improve India, not to improve India, but to take away the wealth from India. Indian industries were destroyed. The British made policies favoring only their business and government. High taxes were charged or imposed on poor peasants, poor section of society. Indian workers lost jobs. The economic hardships faced by many communities like Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs and others made them feel united. People began to realize the root cause of all their problems was the foreign rule. Another factor was the spread of Western education. The British set up schools and colleges where Indians studied English and modern subjects. Through these studies, Indians were introduced to the idea. Okay, they first came across the idea of liberty, equality, democracy, and justice. They read about how countries like France and America fought for their freedom, how ordinary people can form a government. This inspired the young Indians to dream of a free and modern India where people would have their own rights and dignity. English became a common language, helping educated Indians from different regions communicate and work together. The role of press was also very powerful. Newspapers started in Indian languages. These newspapers reported the British unfair system, injustice by the Britishers, and also spreads ideas of nationalism and unity. The press became a voice for the people, helped them become politically aware. People from faraway towns and villages learned about national events and leaders, increasing their involvement in national issues. Newspapers also helped connect people emotionally to the idea of one Indian nation. Socio-reform movements also played a big part in uniting people and encouraging nationalism. Leaders like Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Dayananda Saraswati, Swami Vivekananda, and others worked to remove social evils like sati system, caste discrimination, and untouchability. They told Indians to take pride in their culture and heritage. At the same time, they also asked people to become modern and united. These reforms awakened the people and they prepared their minds to think beyond their region, religion, or caste. Development of railways, roads, telegraph under British rule was done for the benefit of the Britishers has helped Indians also in their national struggle. These systems of transport and communication connected far off cities and villages. People could travel more easily and exchange their ideas and views. Nationalist leaders could reach out to more people. News of political events and national movements could be spread quickly, bringing Indians closer to each other. Many developments took place: British exploitation, modern education, newspaper, reform movements, better communication together created a sense of unity among Indians. The national movement 1885-1919. The rise of nationalism created the need for an organization that could give a voice to the people, make the British government listen to their problems. This need led to the formation of the Indian National Congress. It was started by a retired British officer named A.O. Hume, who believed that Indians should be allowed to express their views peacefully. The first meeting of the Congress was held in Bombay and W.C. Banerjee became the first president. At the beginning, the Congress did not demand independence but only wanted reforms in the system to improve their lives. In its early phase from 1885 to 1905, the Congress was led by moderate or early nationalist leaders like Databhai Nauroji, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, and Surendranath Banerjee. These leaders believed in peaceful methods with the Britishers. They were very loyal to the Britishers, like sending petitions or making written requests, writing articles, holding public meetings. They had faith in British justice and hoped that by making polite requests, the British would give Indians more rights. They demanded that Indians should get more government jobs, lower taxes, and better education. Though their demands were reasonable, the British mostly ignored them. As time passed, a new group of leaders began to emerge who were not happy with the slow and soft methods of the moderates. This group came to be known as the assertive nationalist or extremist, and they were active between 1905 and 1916. The leaders included Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Bipin Chandra Pal, Lala Lajpat Rai. They believed that the British would never give them freedom unless you fight for it. Means you must force them for gaining independence. They used powerful speeches and slogans to awaken the people. Tilak's famous slogan was, "Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it." It became the cry of the movement. The leaders encouraged all Indians to boycott the British goods, promote Indian-made Swadeshi products, a movement called Swadeshi. A turning point came in 1905 when the British partitioned Bengal, claiming it was for the better administration. However, the real reason for partition of Bengal was actually to divide the Hindus and Muslims and weaken the national movement growing in the country. The people saw that this strict and protested strongly. The Swadeshi and boycott movements became powerful tools to oppose the partition. People stopped using British clothes and goods, began supporting Indian industries. National songs, meetings, processions united people in their fight. However, due to differences in opinion and strategy, the Indian National Congress split into two groups in 1907. At the Surat session, the early nationalist moderates and the assertives or the extremists. This division between the Congress weakened the movement for some time. The British took advantage of the split among the Congress and tried to suppress or put down the assertive leaders by arresting them and making harsh laws for these leaders. In 1906, the All India Muslim League was formed to represent the interest of the Muslims. Some Muslims felt that the Congress was mostly representing Hindu interest. The British encouraged the League and used it to divide Hindus and Muslims. This was part of their policy of divide and rule. While the Congress kept working for a united India, the formation of the League created further divisions among the Indians. The period of the national movement was full of challenges, but it laid the foundation for the next phase of struggle. People were aware of their rights. The idea of Swaraj had taken deep roots. More Indians from different regions of the country began to join the movement. The coming of Mahatma Gandhi in 1915 would soon give a new shape to the national movement. The revolt of 1857, first war of independence, was not a sudden event, but the result of years of anger, humiliation, suffering, British had slowly taken over Indian territory, destroyed the Indian tradition, disrespected the Indian religion, and imposed unfair laws on the Indian people. Both common and royal, they felt cheated, insulted, and betrayed. Eventually, all this tension exploded into the violent revolt or uprising of 1857. The British used many unfair policies to take over Indian kingdoms. One of the most hated among these was the doctrine of lapse, which was introduced by Lord Dalhousie. According to this policy, if an Indian ruler died without a natural heir or a biological son, his kingdom would automatically be taken over by the British. This went against the Indian customs, where rulers often adopted sons to continue with their legacies. States like Jhansi, Satara, Nagpur were annexed in this way. For example, Peshwa Bajirao II, the last Peshwa of the Marathas, was removed from power, and after his death, the British refused to recognize his adopted son Nana Sahib as the next Peshwa. Nana Sahib was angry and insulted, later became one of the key leaders of the 1857 revolt. Another policy used by the British was the subsidiary alliance, which was started or developed by Lord Wellesley. According to this system, Indian rulers had to maintain British troops in their territories and pay for them. In return, they lost their independence. They could not form their own army. They could not make any alliance or agreement with other kingdoms without the permission of the Britishers. If they failed to pay, their territories were taken away. This policy of subsidiary alliance made many Indian rulers puppets in the hands of Britishers and only the annexation or taking over of ours by the Britishers in 1856 caused a huge wave of anger. The British accused the Nawab of misgovernance, poor management, and took over the state. This was not only insulting to the royal family, but led to unemployment of thousands of soldiers, landlords, officials in Awadh. These men, who had once held power and pride, were now turned into beggars, and they were turned against the Britishers. Several British laws made Indians feel their culture and religion were under threat. One such law was the General Service Enlistment Act of 1856. This law forced the Indian soldiers to go overseas for serving the Britishers if required. But many Indian soldiers believed that crossing the sea would make them lose their caste, lose their religion. They saw this law as a direct attack on their faith and religion. This created unrest in the army even before the actual revolt began. Social and legal changes added to the frustration. There was the Ilbert Bill controversy of 1883, a later incident, but it reflected the British attitude. The bill proposed that the judges be allowed to try British criminals in India. However, British people in India strongly opposed this, claiming that Indians were not fit to judge them. This bill was withdrawn, and this insult deeply hurt Indian pride. It proved that British never saw Indians as equals, even in matters of law. The Arms Act of 1878, again a slightly later development, was another symbol of racial injustice. This law prevented Indians from carrying weapons without a license. They need to obtain a valid license. While Europeans had no such restrictions, Europeans were not required to obtain any license for holding weapons. It was humiliating for the Indians, and it showed that the British feared Indian rebellion, wanted to keep them powerless. To stop the spread of nationalist ideas, the British passed the Vernacular Press Act of 1878, which censored the Indian newspapers or stopped the publishing of Indian newspapers. It allowed the government to shut down any Indian language newspaper that published articles going against the British rule. Though it came after the revolt, this act reflected how British tried to silence the Indian voices in peaceful ways. The immediate cause of 1857 revolt was the introduction of the new Enfield rifle. The cartridge for this rifle was said to be greased with cow and pig fat. To load the rifle, soldiers had to bite off the cartridge cap with their teeth, hurting the Hindus and Muslim religious sentiments. As cows are sacred to Hindus, pigs are considered impure or unclean to Muslims. When the sepoys refused to use the cartridge, they were punished. The most famous incident was at Meerut, where Indian sepoys were jailed for refusing to obey orders. On 10th of May 1857, the revolt began at Meerut, quickly spread to Delhi and other parts of North India. The rebels marched to Delhi, declared Bahadur Shah Jafar, the last Mughal emperor, as the emperor of India. Though the emperor was old and weak, he became the symbolic head, or the head only in the name. This showed how much Indians still respected the Mughal throne. The revolt spread like wildfire to Kanpur, Lucknow, Jhansi, Gwalior, and Bareilly. Leaders like Nana Sahib, Tatia Topi, Begum, Hazrat Mahal, Rani Lakshmibai led the fight with courage and passion. They were joined by thousands of others, soldiers, farmers, artisans, zamindars, all of whom had suffered under British rule. The Rani Lakshmibai of Jhansi became one of the most inspiring figures. When the British refused to let her adopted son to become king under the doctrine of lapse, she raised the sword to fight for her land. She led her troops bravely, became a symbol of Indian resistance. Tatia Topi, a trusted general of Nana Sahib, was known for his military brilliance. In Lucknow, Begum Hazrat Mahal, the wife of the exiled Nawab of Awadh, also led her forces against the British. Despite the bravery and spirit of the rebels, revolt failed due to many reasons. The revolt had no central leadership. There was no common plan. Most of the rebels were local and were not connected. British had superior weapons, better communication systems like the telegraphs and the railways, help from loyal Indian rulers like the Nizam of Hyderabad, the Maharaja of Kashmir. The revolt was also limited mainly to North and Central India. South India remained mostly untouched, peaceful. After crushing the revolt, the British realized the dangers of their policies. The Government of India Act of 1858 was passed. The rule of the East India Company ended. British Crown, that is Queen Victoria, took direct control over India. Queen Victoria promised not to interfere with Indian religions and customs, and she tried to treat all the subjects, all the common men equally. The army was reorganized, reducing the number of Indian soldiers and increasing the British soldiers in the army. They started dividing Hindus and Muslims to avoid unity among them. Although the revolt failed, it left a deep impact, showing that Indians could rise against foreign rule. The sacrifices of leaders like Rani Lakshmibai and Tatia Topi inspired future generation of freedom fighters. Social reformers like Raja Ram Mohan Roy were working to awaken the minds of Indians. He was the founder of the Brahmo Samaj. He fought against social evils like sati, child marriage, caste discrimination. He promoted modern education, women's rights, freedom of speech. He is called the father of modern India. He is also called the father of Indian Renaissance because he believed that Indians needed to combine the best of their traditions with modern thinking. Another great social reformer, Jyotiba Phule, also worked tirelessly for uplifting the lower caste and improving the social condition of women. He went against the caste system and opened schools for teaching girls and untouchables or lower caste people in Maharashtra, Pune in Maharashtra. The school for girls were opened in the year 1948 in Pune, Maharashtra. He believed that the education was the key to social equality and empowerment. His work laid the foundation for social justice in India. Revolt of 1857 was not just a military rebellion, it was a large-scale expression of deep frustration within the British rule. When did the first War of Independence begin? It began on 10th of May 1857, starting from Meerut, where Indian sepoys rose in revolt against the British. Who was declared the leader of revolt in Delhi? Bahadur Shah Zafar, the last Mughal emperor, was declared the leader and symbol of the revolt. What was doctrine of lapse and how it caused anger or discontentment? The doctrine of lapse was introduced by Lord Dalhousie. It stated that if an Indian ruler died without a natural son, his kingdom would be annexed or taken over by the British. This policy hurt the Indian rulers who had adopted sons and led to the loss of their kingdoms. States like Satara, Jhansi, and Nagpur were taken over, causing deep anger, resentment, discontentment among Indian royalty and citizens. What was the General Service Enlistment Act? The General Service Enlistment Act of 1856 required Indian soldiers to serve overseas, to serve the Britishers overseas in foreign lands if they were ordered to do so. Many Hindus believed that crossing the sea would break their caste, break their religion, and make them impure. This law offended their religious beliefs and caused unrest in the army, and it became one of the reasons for the revolt. What role did greased cartridge play in the outbreak of revolt? The British introduced the new Enfield rifle, which used cartridge said to be greased with cow and pig fat. Sepoys had to bite the cartridge before using them, hurting the religious sentiments of both the Hindus and Muslims. Their refusal to use these greased cartridge and the punishment they received triggered the revolt at Meerut. Economic causes of 1857 revolt. The economic causes are the British destroyed the Indian cottage industries, imposed high taxes on the Indian artisans, craftsmen, workers. British goods were imported and were sold at cheaper rates, making Indian products less competitive and useless. Farmers were forced to grow cash crops like indigo, not food crops. This caused poverty and famine. Famine means a state of hunger and poverty. Landowners lost their land under new revenue systems. Peasants suffered badly. Exploitative policies create widespread anger and suffering, contributing to revolt. Outcome and impact of the revolt, 1857. Although the revolt was crushed by the British, its impact was significant. The rule of East India Company ended and India came under the direct rule of the British Crown, that is Queen Victoria, through the Government of India Act 1858. The Indian Army was reorganized, policies were made to avoid another revolt. Revolt awakened Indian nationalism, became a symbol of resistance, inspiring future freedom struggles. What is nationalism? Nationalism is the feeling of love, unity, pride for one's own country with the desire for political freedom from foreign rule. Who is the father of modern India, also known as the father of Indian Renaissance? Raja Ram Mohan Roy is known as the father of modern India due to his efforts in social reforms and modern education. How Western education promoted nationalism in India? Western education introduced Indians to modern ideas like the idea of liberty, equality, and democracy. Indians read about the revolutions in America and France, and they started demanding similar rights for themselves. It also brought Indians from different regions together, united them through a common language, English, and inspired them to think of India as one nation. What was the role of the press in growing nationalism? Indian newspapers played a major role in spreading awareness about British injustice, unfairness, and uniting people. Newspapers like Kesari, The Hindu, Amrita Bazaar, Patrika published patriotic articles and informed people across India about nationalist activities and leaders, helping the idea of united India grow stronger. Discuss factors leading to the growth of nationalism. Several factors led to the rise of nationalism. British exploitation ruined the Indian economy, destroyed Indian industries, made farmers and artisans suffer, imposed heavy taxation on poor peasants and farmers. Educated Indians learned about democracy and justice through Western education. The press spread nationalist ideas to the common man. Social reformers, including Rajaram Mohan Roy, Jyotiba Phule, encouraged Indians to be proud of culture and also to fight social evils. Development of railways, telegraphs, roads built by the British helped Indians connect across regions. These developments united the people and gave them a rise to shared national identity. Who founded the Indian National Congress? The Indian National Congress was founded by A.O. Hume in the year 1885, who gave the slogan Swaraj is my birthright, I shall have it. Bal Gangadhar Tilak gave the famous slogan, inspiring millions of Indians. Who were the moderates? What were their demands? The moderates or the early nationalists or the early Congress leaders like Dada Bhai Nawaroji and Gopal Krishna Gokhale, eh, expanding to the year 1885 to 1905. These leaders believed in peaceful methods like petitions, prayers, making speeches. They demanded more Indian participation in the government, better education for the people, lowering of taxes, and the protection of Indian industries. Swadeshi movement. The Swadeshi movement began in 1905 as a protest against the partition of Bengal. Indians boycotted British goods, promoted Indian made products, encouraged the national unity, self reliance, and pride in Indian industries. Partition of Bengal. Lord Curzon was responsible for the partition of Bengal in 1905. He partitioned Bengal under the excuse of poor administration or administrative convenience. But the real aim or the real idea was to divide the Hindus and Muslims and weaken their growing nationalism. People reacted with anger. The Swadeshi and boycott movements were launched. Nationalist leaders united to oppose this policy. Vande Mataram became the rallying cry of the protest. The early nationalists, also called the moderates, the period starting from 1885 to 1905, believed in peaceful and constitutional methods. They trusted and showed loyalty that the British would respond positively to their petitions and demands. They worked mainly through speeches, resolutions, and appeals. Against this, the later nationalist, the extremist, or the assertive nationalist from 1905 to 1916 were bold and aggressive. They believed the British would never willingly give power and they called for Swaraj or self rule. They used protest, they started boycotting British goods, national songs were played, public movements to inspire the masses or the common man. Leaders like Lal Bal Pal took the national movement to the streets and awakened a strong spirit of resistance or revolt against the Britishers. Impact and formation of Muslim League. The Muslim League was founded in the year 1906 to represent the interest of Muslims. Many Muslims felt that the Indian National Congress represented mainly the Hindu views. The British encouraged the formation of the league as part of their divide and rule policy. This caused communal division in the Indian politics and made more difficult, which the British used to maintain themselves. Bal Gangadhar Tilak. Bal Gangadhar Tilak was one of the most influential or impressive leaders of the assertive nationalism. He was suggested on the national movement. He was known as the father of Indian unrest. Tilak believed that the British would never give up power on their own and that Indians had to fight actively to gain self-rule or Swaraj. His most famous slogan, Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it, became a powerful call for independence across the country. Tilak believed in awakening the masses, common man, and bring the national movement closer to common people. He used Indian festivals like Ganesh Chaturthi and Shivaji Jayanti to unite people and promote patriotism. Tilak also edited two newspapers, Kesari in Marathi and the Maratha in English, using which he criticized the policies of the Britishers. He also educated people about their rights. During the partition of Bengal in 1905, he played a key role in organizing Swadeshi movement, promoting the boycott of British goods and the use of Indian products. Tilak's courage and leadership made him one of the most admired leaders of the freedom struggle among the youth. Lala Lajpat Rai, popularly known as the Punjab Kesari or the Lion of Punjab, he was a fearless leader, important member of the Lal Bal Pal trio. He was deeply impressed by Indian culture, nationalism, Arya Samaj ideas. Lala Lajpat Rai was active in Punjab, where he spread the message of nationalism, encouraged people to resist British rule. He played a major role in Swadeshi movement, encouraging people boycott British goods and promote Indian industries. He was a strong critic of unjust British laws. He worked hard to build nationalist organizations. In 1928, during a protest against the Simon Commission, okay, the commission which did not had any Indian members, Lala Lajpat Rai led a peaceful procession in Lahore. He was brutally lathi charged by the police and so he died from injuries. His death stirred deep anger across the nation. Bhagat Singh and his group later killed British officer Saunders to take revenge of Lala Lajpat Rai's death. His bravery, oratory, sacrifices made him a martyr and a symbol of resistance against the colonial or foreign rule. Gopal Krishna Gokhale. Gopal Krishna Gokhale was one of the most respected leaders of the moderate phase. He was known for his intelligence, honesty, and the commitment of promise to the reforms through peaceful and constitutional means. Senior leader of the International Congress, reforms worked closely with the British government for changes. He argued that greater Indian representation in administration, reduction of taxes, better education and health services. The servants of Indian society in 1925 to train young Indians in public service and social reform. They believed that the British were not entirely evil, but they misguided and could be convinced to do the right thing. Though criticized by opposite nationalists for being too mild or gentle, Gokhale led the foundation of modern politics in India. He was social evils such as sati, child marriage, caste discrimination, illiteracy. Several reformers began to work in purifying the society, awakening a sense of equality and justice. Raja Ram Mohan Roy was the pioneer of this movement. He founded the Brahmo Samaj in 1828 to reform Hindu society. He fought against the practice of sati, promoted women's education, believed in the unity of all religions, also supported Western education and scientific thinking. Swami Dayananda Saraswati founded the Arya Samaj in 1875. He called for a return to the pure teachings of the Vedas. He rejected idol worship and caste discrimination. He gave a slogan, Back to the Vedas, encouraging Indians to take pride in their own heritage. Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar worked in Bengal for widow remarriage, women's education, against child marriage. He opened schools for girls, published books in simple Bengali to spread education. Jyotiba Phule. Jyotiba Phule worked among the lower caste in Maharashtra. He founded the Satya Sodhak Samaj to fight caste discrimination, educate women and backward communities. His wife, Savitri Bai Phule, was first female teacher of modern India. Swami Vivekananda emphasized the spiritual greatness of Indian civilization. He called upon the youth to serve nation with strength and pride. His famous speech in Chicago in the year 1893 awakened national pride across India. East India Association. The East India Association was founded by Dadabhai Nawaroji in 1866 in London. Nawaroji was the first Indian to become a member of the British Parliament. He wanted to use his position to present India's real condition before the British public and government. The East India Association served as a platform for educated Indians to discuss the economic and political problems that was caused by the Britishers. It published articles, gave lectures informing the British about the reality of how Indians are suffering under the foreign rule, especially regarding the drain of wealth, the idea that the British policies were systematically taking India's wealth to England. The association of the first political organizations promoted a national political consciousness among Indians, paved the way. The Indian Association. The Indian Association was established in 1876 by Surendranath Banerjee and Anand Mohan Bose in Calcutta. It aimed to bring Indians together, unite them for political purpose. The founders wanted to make Indians politically aware, involve them in demanding reforms from the Britishers. The Indian Association was active and wide reaching than earlier organizations. It focused on creating unity between Hindus and Muslims, encouraged people to protest against unjust laws like the lowering of the age limit for Indian civil service examination in England from 21 to 19 years. The association protested the Ilbert Bill controversy, worked to expand the rights of Indian citizens. It opened branches in various parts of the country, served as a training ground for future nationalist leaders. The association played crucial role in preparing the ground for formation of Indian National Congress in 1885. So this is the end of all the three chapters of ICSE history, chapter 1, chapter 2 and chapter 3. I hope you must have enjoyed this lecture thoroughly. Thank you for listening patiently. Bye bye. Take care.